ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the CSL. I'm Joe, with me is Fear Dragon, and we've got, I would say, a really great match tonight with University of Chicago versus the University of Washington. I couldn't be more excited. How are you feeling about this match, buddy?
Like you said, Joe, this is going to be a very exciting match as both of these teams fielding some really awesome and strong players. We have the two GM players, I think, for one on each team. And we, of course, have some young upstarts that are coming into these matches facing off versus their respective opponents' GMs. So it's really going to be up to, I think, those up-and-coming players to really set the pace of this matchup to see who can upset and seize that momentum. And I think that we are already hopping into game number one since the game got started pretty darn quickly.
Yeah, and spawning down here in the bottom right-hand corner, playing for Chicago, and also Sloth Esports give it up for the yellow Protoss player. It is OMG a Banana.
And his opponent spawning up here in the top left-hand corner of the map, we have the purple Protoss player from University of Washington. It's Lamb Sauce, who is a young upstart freshman over at the University of Washington. University of Washington, formerly one of the champions for the 2014-2015 season, but haven't really been able to, I guess, replicate the same results ever since Kawhi Race graduated. So it's cool to see that kind of up-and-coming young blood coming into the CSL and coming into the team to try and reinvigorate it and maybe give them that second run that they've been looking for.
Yeah, and it's an interesting first match because I think OMG Banana is favored. I think we saw Lamb Sauce is kind of a high Masters 1 type player, whereas OMG Banana is like a pretty solidly GM guy. He's gotten one or two decent results at LAN. But the pressure on OMG Banana is a lot higher because I think his roster has less depth, even though it's kind of got that really great peak with him playing. If he loses, and it's not like this is a situation where his opponent's completely out of his league. If OMG and Banana loses, this is going to be a very frustrating series to play.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, again, if we take a look at this matchup, which is, again, Lamb Sauce versus OMG Banana being the favored player, and then we look at the next game that's going to be played in game number 2. It's Zeal versus Trevor Moore, and same thing, but the opposite way. The University of Washington's player is going to be a little bit favored in the form of Zeal. So Trevor Moore could potentially upset over there. If either one of these players, we have Lamb Sauce and Trevor Moore, if either one of them can upset, I really think that their team will seize the momentum of this series. They will have an enormous advantage coming in and feeling probably pretty comfortable that they just have to win one more, either the 2v2 or game number 4, and they will be able to secure a solid 3-game victory.
Yeah, and it is a best of 5. So, like you said, there's not that much room for error. And when you have two lineups that are just so closely stacked, every win is going to feel terrific. Every loss is going to be really painful. But it does look like Lamb Sauce is going to be making the kind of opening first move here. He's going to be sending some lings out. I'm wondering how well he knows OMG Banana's style, because we've seen him be really strong with kind of gateway attacks in the past. And, you know, when you have a player that plays like that, just being pretty active on the map, scouting a lot, knowing what timings might be a play is going to be so important.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of a mistake over here from Lamb Sauce, though, because he does send both of his Overlords over just the natural. He doesn't have Overlord speed on the way either, so this is going to make it a lot more difficult for him to scout into the main base, to identify that Twilight Council, to identify what's going to be coming out. He does see the Robo with those Lings poking forward, as well as the Overlords just hovering over that high ground area. But again, he's not necessarily going to know how committed the aggression is, and we already do see a Dark Shrine coming out behind this.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's what we were talking about. OMG Banana is a player that likes to bust out the early aggression. Could be for something just like the DT Harass into the Archon drop, which can be really powerful early game. Lamb Sauce does have some lings out on the map, but there's a solid wall, and I don't think, unless a mistake is made, he's going to be able to get any kind of scouting off here.
Yeah, it doesn't really seem like he's going to be able to go for any kind of Overlord drops, not only with the Overlord positioning right now, but also just the fact that I don't believe there's an evolution chamber out, but there are a lot of banelings being made. So seems like he's just going to go for the big old baneling bust. This is something that we occasionally see in PvZ, but it's certainly not nearly as popular as it was way back in Heart of the Swarm and everything. So I'm interested to see how is OMG a Banana going to really react to this. One Adept already on the other side of the map has identified there's no drones at the third. That's a huge reveal. Suddenly he should be in panic mode thinking, okay, I got to use all of my weapons defensively back at home.
Yeah, and like you said, Big Tell, the first banelings are going to come wandering up here. There is a full wall off. He's going to have to go for the Adept. The pylon overcharges do come down. Some sentries being warped in to try to force field this out. But they get knocked down. Really nice move by Lamsauce, who's broken through the wall and attained that critical mass to get into the probe line.
And not only that, well, I like that OMG a Banana is going for the full wall off once again, trying to just halt any additional links from storming on forward, but first he's got to deal with the links that are already out. DT getting warped inside the main base and Photon Overcharge being popped. This is going to help clean up a ton of these links and maybe give him this kind of renewed life to make this work. A baneling goes off at the front and is able to soften up that Cybernetics core. No more sentries going to be warped in anytime soon.
Yeah, the DTs will eventually clean everything up here, but Lings are so fast they can basically just ignore the melee swipes here, and doing a good job of splitting up his Lings as Lamsauce. He's dividing OMG a Banana's attention, and it looks like things are just starting to fall apart for our Protoss player here.
You know, I actually think that OMG Banana's doing a fantastic job holding on over here. Now with the DTs out in decent enough numbers, he reestablishes that wall. And if he can get 1 or 2 DTs out on the other side of that wall, he can eventually, slowly but surely, swipe away at those Lings. The Lings knock down the wall, but the DTs are there now at the wall to try and knock things away. Maybe making an Archon would even kind of behoove him at this point to get that splash damage out, but Lamsauce is committed to making this work, and he doesn't have a lair behind this. He's gotten up some spore cars, but I mean, he is not going to have an easy time breaking through this anymore.
Yeah, I'm not sure what his next move is. The lair is about 3/4 of the way down. There's a Roach Warren on the way. To me, that indicates with how low the worker count is, we might see some kind of just Roachling Bane all in and just try to go for the kill, hoping his opponent hasn't built up the critical mass. A really cute drop warp prism micro there, saving the DT.
Yeah, 3 more DTs warped in earlier for the defense, also going to make their way across the map to join forces with the Warp Prism. And this is where the kind of patented Archon drop harassment can be really, really effective that he was originally planning to go for, but now you put this in the context of a Zerg player that's even further behind in their economy and everything else than they normally would be. Sure, you could say the same thing for OMG a Banana, but OMG a Banana is going to have some time to boost up that economy, to get us some upgrades. And it's now up to Lamsauce to have an answer.
Yeah, he's trying to get those roaches out, but it feels like it might be too little too late as the first hit squad of OMG a Banana comes up here. A couple of Archons are going to be pummeling away at this drone line. No pull quite yet, and the Zealots are going to be able to get in there uncontested. A couple of roaches are starting to join up here. Queen's coming down from the mid and the natural to help, but this is painful for the Zerg player.
Oh god, one of these Archons already up to 22 kills. Warp Prism getting focus fire down. I love that Lamsauce is doing a good job pushing that back, trying to prevent the easy pickups, but very few of these Zealots have even really gone down. The Archon's still whittling away at this army from behind. The Roaches now out are helping out quite a bit, and it seems like OMG Banana is going to get pushed back, but I mean, just even putting on this kind of pressure has been a really nice bit of damage. He's been able to catch up in the work count, but most importantly, start establishing that third base.
Yeah, and that was a complete Queen reset as well, so Lamsauce is going to have very little larva to work with in the next few minutes, and when you're looking at the kind of army he's building, I think he desperately wants to be doing a lot of things with larva, and this is going to be very painful. A little bit of bouncing back and forth with the Archon. The Roaches can't really shut down the Warp Prism, but at the same time, the Archons shouldn't be able to get too much done as long as Lamsauce is paying attention.
All right, well, the Archons have really got to do a good job of staying alive because, yeah, of course, I do like OMG a Banana's potential tools that he can work with right now, but he is still down a little bit in supply. He does need to safely establish that third base to make things work. It's kind of that potential opportunity to get further and further ahead of his opponent, but one wrong step and he can immediately start falling behind as he loses one of the Archons. Warp Prism, got to be a little bit careful about those pickups. He's really playing with fire over there as he is working with Archons on very low shields.
Yeah, he is warping in another DT, so I think he might want to replenish that. He thinks the threat of having the 2 Archons on the field is definitely worth those resources he's investing back at home. He's just trying to add some meat into his army, getting out some Zealots, getting out some Immortals, and he just wants to have that really, really solid third base, whereas Lamsauce is actually going up to 4. He's getting his Spire out. He's not out of the game yet. Both of these players are kind of on even footing, but in a really awkward position.
You know, the Spire is a very, very interesting play in this situation because there are the potential for these Archons to continue to harass down and deal with a good number of Mutalisks, but beyond that, it's going to be Immortals, it's going to be Zealots being made, and there's not really going to be a whole lot of anti-air defenses. If the Archons get Magic Boxed on, if they get taken out, if the Warp Prism gets dealt with, this is going to be difficult to deal with, but I do wonder how big is the commitment going to be to Mutas? We have 8 on the way. Looks like it is going to be a pretty heavy commitment. So I was wondering because the Hydra Den was on the way and maybe he just wanted to get rid of the Warp Prism, but oh, looks like he is going to try and get something done with them.
Yeah, these Archons have found a really cute position behind the mineral line, and they're just wailing away on these drones. Some Roaches are finally going to come to push them away, and Nice Split is going to back that up inside the main base.
Oh my god. One of these Archons has 30 kills right now, Joe. Like, I want you to put that in perspective. This is 30 kills on drones, on Lings, even some Roaches, some Queens. I mean, this has been an incredibly effective Warp Prism, and he's done a great job. I want to also note, he hasn't lost any health on that Warp Prism, despite constant target firing from Queens and everything. I just love the way OMG Banana has been handling this, but here come in those Mutas.
Yeah, what's there to defend this? A single Stalker in the main base, looking pretty vulnerable. Mothership Core going to come in quickly and get that pylon overcharge down. And a couple more Stalkers being warped in. These Mutas are actually forced off. Really tight defense by OMG Banana so far.
Yeah, very conservative on those photon overcharges, using one at a time very gradually. So he's really just trying to stick around with a consistent defense. He's not trying to go and rush in for the immediate pickoffs on a ton of these Mutas, but the Muta cloud is going to continue to grow and grow and grow. As 3 more on the way, more Lings on the way. The Roaches and Lings moving their way over to the 3rd. The Archons have to be in position and prepared. Guardian Shield getting popped immediately while the Mutas jump in on top of these Stalkers and are actually taking an okay-ish engagement.
Yeah, but I feel like the critical mass of Stalkers is so much easier to build up than the critical mass of Mutas. As I say that, though, it's been bled out to a point and the Mutas are now fighting head-on and doing okay. We do see double Stargate Phoenix production, but so far these Mutas are kind of being allowed to run Ramshackle over the base.
All right, well, Mutas finally getting forced back, and Lamsauce has not been able to break into that 3rd location, especially with the added benefit of a couple of those DTs that are even around. If that Overseer ever gets sniped off, this slow Overlord Overseer could always take a little bit too much damage, but I really am liking OMG Banana's defense. The Phoenix gonna help out versus these Mutas, but he's gotta build that number up. He cannot afford to take too many losses on those, as the Mutas can easily just overrun them otherwise.
Yeah, it looks like he's not going to stay committed on those Mutas, is Lamsauce, instead moving into Hydra production. This DT will actually get a glimpse of the first couple Hydras. He's going to know that's where Lamsauce is spending his gas. That could be a really useful tell on him and making sure he doesn't overcommit into the Phoenixes. And he's going to be taking his 4th base. OMG Banana feeling very secure right now.
All right, 3 Phoenixes out right now. 4th Phoenix just now popping, and 5th and 6th Phoenixes on the way, but loses one of the Phoenix to the Muta Cloud. Like you said, he's already seen some of the Hydras, and one of the important things to note is, actually, as I say it, the Lurker Den can always be on the way. That's something you have to be prepared for. It's a really difficult thing to deal with if your composition is too focused around charge lots and Archons and only like 1 or 2 Immortals. You really want to have up the answer to those Lurkers. And funny enough, sometimes Phoenix can actually be a very, very effective response in large enough numbers to a handful of those Hydras and Lurkers.
Yeah, I mean, if you could just take them out of the fight, clean up the rest of the army, suddenly Lurkers aren't so scary when they're completely exposed. And a lot of the times that just comes down to engagement. And both of these guys are showing really smart instincts there, so I'd love to see how that would play out.
Okay, a couple of the Phoenixes do lose their lives, but picking off a handful of these Mutas, and now actually going to go for a more direct fight, loses another Phoenix, and is still producing additional ones, but now the army for Lamsauce is here and ready to tango. OMG Banana has that gold base, but even that is going to be a bit vulnerable from the low ground. If Lamsauce decides to take advantage of that, he's now maxed out. 1-1-1 upgrades. Here we go. Here's the big engagement, Joe.
Looks like Lamsauce going to try to get the best concave he can. OMG Banana moving back in, trying to deny that surface area. These Hydras are able to shoot from the back. Phoenix is going to sweep around here and start picking up some of these key power units. Back on the other side of the map, Lamsauce is hemorrhaging drones. He needs to make this happen right here, right now, but it looks like his army's just bleeding out.
Oh man, losing the Overseers allows these DTs to do a massive amount of damage. Even if they don't have a lot of kills, it forces his opponent back. The Archons were in the back and were not able to do a lot of damage, but those Zealots on the other side of the map, really, like you said, able to clean things up by killing off one of those very vital bases for Lamb Sauce.
Yeah, I think what Lamb Sauce is trying to do right now is just get supercharged on his army and try to go for one last steamroll over his opponent. He's still at double the supply. Obviously, OMG Banana's supply is significantly better right now, but sometimes it doesn't matter and you just need a whole bunch of stuff.
And a whole bunch of stuff is going to be the answer for Lamb Sauce, like you said. Now, a lot of Archons, High Templars coming out, but Storm is not finished researching. Even a handful of Mutas coming out as a reinforcing pack, hoping that these Phoenix will just end up losing their lives to the Hydras. And man, Joe, I just don't think that the numbers are here. Like you said, raw numbers right now for Lamb Sauce as the young freshman charges forward and claims the first game.
That's got to feel absolutely terrific here for Washington. Oh man, what a brutal game. Really nice defenses by OMG Banana. But Lamb Sauce is relentless. He kept pushing with the aggression, and he had really good instincts with just knowing when to go in, when to sit back and drone up, and when he had no options, when it was time to put everything on the table and try to make it happen right there.
Yeah, I'm really impressed right now with Lamb Sauce's play, as again, the young upstart freshman really proving to be a very, very valuable asset for, of course, Team University of Washington. So they are going to go up 1-0 and already kind of upsetting the balance of things. I would say moving into game number 2, we are going to see Trevor Moore facing off versus Zeal. And Zeal is that kind of similar situation to how OMG Banana was in that last game. He is the Grandmaster. He is the player that needs to be upset. He is not the upsetter. He is going to be favored coming into this one. So if University of Washington can carry on this momentum, they will be able to go up 2-0. Then they only need one more game from either the 2v2, the game number 4, which is another 1v1, or even just the ace match if they need it. But they would have 3 opportunities to take a single map and win the series. So if they can just now play it out from that same level, they're going to be in a great spot.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Looking to be in a very strong position as Washington as we move into game number 2. So don't go anywhere, guys. We're going to be right back with some more CSL. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to CSL. We're about to be hopping into our second game. Right now, Washington has a 1-0 lead, and we're going to be checking out Zeal versus Pancakes. Should be a lot of fun. Like you said, I think Zeal is definitely favored to win this match.
Absolutely, but Pancakes, of course, still a Masters 2 level player. Still going to be have a very, very solid chance. And of course, PvP is one of those matchups that I think if you happen to be a specialty Protoss versus Protoss player, it can be incredibly effective. Just because PvP, I feel like, plays out fairly differently than most of the other matchups for Protoss. There's small little things that you can take advantage of, and there's a lot of ways that even if you're down in supply or macro or something, just having raw good engagements in PvP is astoundingly a amazing way to come back in games. A good disruptor hits, good concaves, good positioning, all these things are so important in PvP. So I'd love to actually see how this is going to go. Zeal traditionally in the past games that I used to see of him, I mean, this is talking a long while ago, back in mostly Heart of the Swarm, a little bit of Legacy of the Void, but Zeal's traditionally been one of those more aggressive Protoss players out there.
Yeah, aggressive, strong, making it all the way up to WCS Challenger back in the day. We'll have to see what he can do today here. I was just kind of doing the creeper peek at his profile. It looks like he hasn't been super active. He's played about 100 games this season, so he's definitely keeping his hands warm for CSL, but that's probably not quite the same level he was playing back when he was competing at the highest level of StarCraft 2.
Yeah, you know, that is the impressive thing about all the players playing here today is that they're all, of course, attending university. The Collegiate Star League, of course, all about those colleges and universities, and it's a hard knock life for all those players who are so diligently studying and doing their homework and preparing for tests, but also preparing for their games of StarCraft, Joe.
Well, spawning here in the top left-hand corner, playing for the University of Washington. Give it up for our blue Protoss player. It is Zeal.
And spawn down to the bottom right-hand corner of the map, we have the red Protoss player. Give it up for Pancakes, representing, of course, the University of Chicago, aka Trevor Moore.
That's a comedian. He was on
Trevor
the whitest kids you know.
I vaguely remember a couple episodes of Whitest Kids You Know.
Yeah, that's like probably the right way to remember it. They had some skits that were like really, really funny, and then most of it was kind of bad. I think like a lot of sketch comedies like that.
Yeah, it's pretty accurate, I would say. I don't know. I have they're kind of like that old school YouTube era for me, where I'm like, I remember that back in like 2007 or something.
Yeah.
Back when YouTube was on the upswing.
I remember when YouTube was a site that like you would go to watch like TV shows. Now you like start like uploading a TV show, and like within minutes Google's lawyers are at your door with like a cease and desist.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when YouTube wasn't owned by Google.
Oh
that
yeah, that was a
a
thing.
crazy era. Yeah, it was not originally just a Google product. It was something that Google acquired at one point.
Yeah. Well, anyways.
Speaking of Google, these young upstarts, so intelligent that either one of them could one day work for Google as they attend their university, get their degrees, but also show some fantastic StarCraft. Again, like when I talked about a little bit about Zeal, he is I think a player that traditionally in the past was a very, very successful Protoss player in his aggression. He was able to put on a lot of really nice timing pressures, and like you said, qualify for WCS Challenger, which was absolutely a feat. So I'm interested to see where is his standing. You mentioned how many games he's been playing, and there's a really interesting conversation to be had about, I would say the way that I would describe it is like a skill floor for players that are coming back or haven't been playing a lot. It's very easy to maintain that kind of minimum level of play, which will oftentimes be not actually that far off from your absolute peak level of play. So we'll see.
Yeah, well, the first engagements are starting. Let's see how these guys are feeling about their Stalker confidence. Both of them not feeling like it's worth trying to play that deadly dance right now. Just going to peel their Stalkers back a bit. Zeal choosing to be a bit more aggressive, staying on the map here, whereas Pancakes just going to join up with that Mothership Core and move out with a larger Stalker army. Zeal actually needs to be a little bit careful. He doesn't want to get caught here outgunned.
Yeah, really interesting that we already see that Pancake is a little bit wary about the proxy Stargate or proxy shenanigans that could be happening, scouting around with that Mothership Core. Now we have the 4-Stalker versus 4-Stalker battle in the middle of the map, but look at the Zeal's Stalkers just have way more shields on all of them compared to Pancakes, who does have to back up, hasn't taken any damage, but oh man, Zeal throwing down a proxy pylon over by that third, even going to be able to move into the main base successfully with that probe to get a full scout out on, well, for now, just 2 gateways, but sees the Nexus already down, is not going to see that Robo, I guess the tech follow-up, but he already has a bit of a head start on his own.
Yeah, absolutely. It does look like Zeal is continuing to crank out these Stalkers. He wants to be out on the map and be aggressive. And I mean, we talked about this, right? He's a guy that likes gateway units. He's going to have a total of 8 Stalkers here, and I don't know if there's anything to stop this from just steamrolling.
Oh, this is such a sick play from Zeal, abusing the fact that the Mothership Core was going to be in the main base that he not only saw with the probe, but also most Protoss players around this time, if their opponent has not really scouted them out, and notice, you go to Pancake's vision, he hasn't scouted with a probe or anything. Zeal may have identified this and said, well, you don't know if I'm going for a Stargate, you don't know if I'm going for Blink. You don't know what I'm doing. So you're going to leave that Mothership Core in your main base. You're going to be ready to Photon Overcharge. And then your Nexus is going to be ready to die because you're not going to be able to react to this raw number of Stalkers, the Proxy Pylon, warping in and dishing out the damage.
Yeah, and now Zeal is going to be able to hold this low ground for quite a while. He's actually making some more depths here. He's just going to add a little bit of cheaper meat to his army. They can kind of scout up with the shades as well. This is really nicely done, and we can see Pancakes is just sitting scared on one base. Not the kind of position you want to be in a mirror matchup like this.
Yeah, very interesting to me that we don't see Zeal producing any additional workers. He may start now that he's backing off, but getting up a very quick robotics, but he's not actually climbing ahead in workers. Now he's finally starting a little bit of that worker reproduction. And again, just having two bases to mine off of right now, you can already see that Pancakes on even-ish workers is already oversaturated. So this is absolutely going to start affecting the economies immediately, but not as much as you would necessarily think until Zeal really gets up that massive kind of worker count to really get full saturation at that natural, or at least take the gas guys or something along those lines. So I still feel Pancakes has an opportunity to do something, but the window is closing very quickly.
Yeah, we can see that Zeal's income advantage already starting to spike off above his opponents here. And Pancakes is in kind of a weird spot because, like you said, he didn't have that scouting information, so he had to kind of build a jack-of-all-trades build. And that kind of build is not good necessarily at doing something really decisive when you're behind and you have to make something happen. It's hard to pivot from that into... I mean, it looks like he might be going for some kind of killer instinct type move here, but it's going to make it a little harder.
Yeah, you know, honestly, and this is easy for me to say as someone who has the full map vision, but I would have loved if Pancake had moved out 45 seconds earlier, right when that Warp Prism was popping out or about to pop out. Get across the map, the Templar Archives would finish, you warp in some High Templars on the other side of the map, and imagine if this push was hitting 15-20 seconds ago. Maybe then the Archons are breaking the force fields down that Zeal would try and attempt. He doesn't actually have that many Immortals, and Zeal would actually not have the scariest looking army, but as the game goes on, we're going to see, guess what? Another Immortal popping out. We're seeing additional rounds of warp-ins, and that economy is definitely paying for itself. So I feel like Zeal is actually now set up, and this is going to be an incredibly difficult position to break.
Yeah, Zeal had actually, he was making a disruptor to do disruptor drops, it looked like, and he caught a whiff of this and was like, nope, canceled that, got the Immortal out, and once that second Immortal is able to anchor the defense, this is going to be such a hard wall for Pancakes to break, but he's committed and he has to try to make it happen right here, right now. Can he take the engagement of a lifetime?
Oh, I love this move from Pancakes. He warps in one High Templar and tries to move forward to the Warp Prism and the High Templar and try and get a feedback on that Mothership Core. Now the Mothership Core is going to be probably making its way closer down over that natural. No, Zeal just going to leave it in the main base for now. Feels like he doesn't even need the extra Photon Overcharges to help defend over here. Now the Warp Prism moving over to the main base. Photon Overcharge being used, but there it is. Feedback on that. But oh man, at the cost of the Warp Prism going a little bit too far in. Pancakes is committed. He has to do this now. He's only on one base, but I just don't think it's going to be possible.
No, I think you're absolutely right about that. We even see a little bit of poor man's Blink Micro coming out with this Warp Prism, and it's just not necessary at all. Zeal's army is soul-crushingly larger than Pancakes, who's going to recall on home to lick his wounds and wait for the counterattack.
I mean, you say he goes and recalls home to lick his wounds, but I mean, these are not the kind of scratches that a cat would give you. These are tiger mauling, I guess, scars that are just not going to go away anytime soon. It's going to take a lifetime to regenerate from this. As you can see, he's starting a long distance mine with all the additional workers he has because he's mining out of his main base. This is an absolute disaster. Zeal establishing a third before Pancakes even afford a natural.
Yeah, I mean, Pancakes, you've got to give him props. He's trying to make something happen. He's looking for that miracle engagement, but he doesn't really even have like a unit, like a disruptor that would allow a miracle engagement to happen. He's got Archons, he's got Stalkers, he's got Zealots, and they only hit one unit at a time. I don't know how you turn that into a winning situation.
Yeah, I could not agree more. Something like the Disruptor, yeah, you know what, PvP, you could turn a game around with even one or two Disruptor hits, but Pancakes just doesn't feel like he has the tools. At best, he maybe has some really solid Warp Prism micro potential, but it's going to have to be out of this world good to really try and make a difference over here, just because he lost so much of his army during that last attack.
Yeah, even going in for a little bit of harassment, it looked like Zeal was. Now Pancakes is going to try to funnel up this tight choke. I think with the Disruptor, going to take the shields off that, chew a lot of the meat out of the army. We're down to just a couple of Stalkers and an Archon. Pancakes feeling he has to try to make it happen for his team, but that's going to be the end. GG is called, and Washington goes up 2-0 in a clean fashion.
Yep. The, I guess, favored player ends up winning game number 2 after the kind of upset in game number 1. And now, like we were saying before, Joe, Washington has seized complete momentum. The ball is rolling, and just like Indiana Jones, University of Chicago is in a world of trouble right now. As that ball is going to steamroll straight over them if they cannot do something to halt its momentum. But it's not just about slowing it down. They can win the 2v2. They can win maybe even the 1v1 in game number 4. But even that will not halt the ball entirely. It's going to slow it down. But then they have to go to game number 5 and potentially face off in another similar situation where their 2 ace players have basically fallen already. So it's a really, really rough start, but I really want to see University of Chicago rally at this point in the 2v2. This is where you start to at least make an impact, to make a dent in that moving ball.
Yeah, so don't go anywhere, guys. We're going to be right back with our 2v2, and we'll have to see if University of Chicago can pull this back.
But she said, trust me, these are the stories we will tell. As I stood frozen, infinite, I almost fell. But I got a feeling and my heart starts beating, a sudden rush of feeling alive. This is freedom and I won't change, I won't phase out.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to the CSL. We are getting ready to hop into our 2v2, and I don't think we have a clear favorite tonight. Do you, Revy?
No, I do not necessarily know. I was absolutely impressed with Lamb Sauce. So I think that Lamb Sauce having, or I guess playing right now for University of Washington could maybe help turn the tides of things, but 2v2 is not so simple, Joe. It is not a matchup or a kind of style of play that or game that you can really just play and say, well, there's one player and he's just going to hard carry his entire team for the rest of this. No. The 2v2 is a much more intricate and requires a lot of finesse and understanding of the meta.
Well, spawning here in the bottom left-hand corner, playing for the University of Chicago. They have to win this one if they want to rally and stay alive. Give it up for the Blue Terran, Scott. And the Teal Protoss player, Pancakes.
Oh, I love it. Players choosing similar colors, making it nice and easy for us, as these players do the same up here in the top right-hand corner of the map. We have the red Protoss player. It's Lamb Sauce. And his teammates. Down in the purple, it's Garage Door, representing University of Chicago.
Oh man, I want to give a quick shout out to Lamb Sauce, like the concept.
Yeah, sorry. University of Washington, by the way. I said University of Chicago. I meant University of Washington.
Oh yeah, Lamb Sauce is delicious. That's all I was gonna say. I love that stuff, and I would put it on anything.
Well, I would actually say that pancakes are quite delicious as well.
That's actually one thing I probably wouldn't put Lamb Sauce on. It's like a bitter yogurt.
Well, that makes sense because you know what? These two teams are duking it out, and I imagine that they would not have good synergy with the enemy.
But you know what's making this match a lot more exciting? That write-up that PowerFo did. You guys can check it out on Reddit. He kind of really went in depth talking about a lot of these different players. PowerFo is a player for University of Waterloo. And he took that on, wrote this really cool narrative, helped to hype up some of these guys that, you know, maybe Fear Dragon and I, and probably a lot of you guys watching, didn't know quite that well, like a Lamb Sauce, who is apparently this up-and-coming player. He's shown a lot of great potential, taking out OMG Banana, who has gotten, I believe, top 8 or top 16 at a Cheesadelphia. Pretty impressive results to his name, doing well in bigger North American lands, and Lamb Sauce is able to show up and take him out.
Yeah, it's really awesome to see that kind of stuff. Thank you so much to PowerFo for making that kind of stuff, and even highlighting some of these other awesome people. And if you do actually know about some of these CSL teams, and you know the little individual nitty-gritty details, you should actually feel free to reach out to the Collegiate Star League. We'd love to hear your guys' stories, your little insights about the players, and really help highlight kind of stories behind the scenes. Because again, you have to remember, there is actually a person behind every single one of these name tags, a full story behind it, a psychology major, someone who's going for a law degree, someone who has this really, really long history in Brood War or whatever have you. But here we go, Joe. We are finally getting started with some of that aggression as two Stalkers and a Reaper make their way across the map.
Yeah, this is going to be the opening salvo, and what's already looking to be a pretty explosive match. Garage Door adding on a bunch of tech, but he doesn't have a lot of units out to try to hold this off right now, and he might just face a little bit of trouble. That one Widowmine burrowing at the top of the ramp should grant him a moment of respite, so it looks like Pancake's going to be bouncing over here and try to push into the red Protoss base. So far...
Well, there's no Mothership Core over here, and there's really, really light defenses. I want to note the small little thing that Pancake and Scott did. It's called a cut-in. What you do is you push into one of these bases. You can actually imagine the same thing in a 1v1, but in this situation works even better in a 2v2. You push into one of them, you force them back, and then you move back out to the other side. So you know that you're really only going to be fighting one of your opponents, and this is sort of the result of it. The Adepts getting taken out in a matter of seconds to get a Phoenix are just absolutely not going to be useful. And with no Mothership Core over here, Lamb Sauce is looking like he's going to be falling incredibly rapidly.
Yeah, now it looks like Garage Door is going to join up with this fight, an opposing Cyclone to try to ward this off. A few Marines are going to help with this. And with the Phoenixes, it might be enough to clean it up, but losing that Cyclone's really painful. There was just nothing there to buffer for it.
Yeah, looks like the Liberator coming out is going to seal the deal as the Phoenix finally get enough energy for a few more lift ups. One final soccer going to be moving into the main base and scouting out the double Stargate. If you couldn't tell before by how many Phoenix that were coming out at a time, looks like Pancakes and Scott definitely know now. And I like that he tries to get a little bit of additional value out of that Stalker, but it will eventually end up falling. Oh, bit of a potential miss rally over here with the Stalkers, though, as these Phoenix are not going to give up an opportunity to seize the momentum over here and take those out.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a miss rally because there's also a Cyclone joining up with this. It looks like maybe just a mistake, like a kind of calculation error here. But either way, the remaining forces are going to be pulled back. And for the moment, at least, University of Washington holding off what looked to be some very scary aggression.
All right, Liberator going to be coming on into Pancakes' main base and going to be making it very difficult to effectively mine over here. A Stalker does come in, but loses a lot of health over there. Not quite in range to actually take out that Liberator either, as additional probes continue to fall. The Phoenix is going to eventually make their way across the map as well. And this is going to make it even more difficult to clean this Liberator up.
Yeah, University of Washington continuing to pick up steam here. The overcharge is going to force the Phoenixes back a little bit, but you only get so many of those. And 2 Marines is not enough to contest this Phoenix flock. Now this should be enough to drive it away.
Yeah, at least enough to try and scare off the Phoenix flock for now, but as more and more of these Phoenix come out, you have to remember, in 2v2, Phoenixes really hit their stride. If they have a little bit of that back out ground support, they completely seize control of the map. There's no way Medivacs or any of these other kinds of things can easily get across the map. We do see a Medivac, speaking of the devil, moving out for Scott on the south side of the map, but the Phoenixes are going to make sure that if that drop does not effectively do a ton of damage, there's no way it makes it back home.
Yeah, the Phoenixes have found kind of a vulnerable position here. Seeing 2 Stalkers, they can actually save this Liberator. That's a great 1-2 punch here. And now this probe line is completely undefended, even losing a Viking. Well done by Washington.
I just love the teamwork right now that we're seeing from Washington. That drop really has to do a lot of damage over here. A ton of the hopes right now and dreams for Scott and Pancakes are riding on this drop, as they're definitely falling a bit in supply. And Garage Door behind this, that one Liberator has been doing a ton of damage, but he has been doing an excellent job macroing. He has to be stopped right now as Scott moves in with these Marines, killing off some of these workers.
Yeah, these Marines are basically uncontested for the moment, but there is going to be reinforcements coming down very quickly. They're going to get a lot of these SCVs and be driven away. It looks like the Medevac may make it out, but it can't really return home because there's a huge flock of Phoenixes patrolling everywhere, like you mentioned.
Phoenix is still looking for opportunities to get more damage done. They could even dive in on top of that mothership core if it's not careful. Stalkers blink forward, but I mean, 4 Stalkers. Is that really going to be enough to deal with this number of Phoenix? With the foots and overcharges, it looks like it's enough to at least push them back, but I don't think any Phoenixes are actually lost over there. Maybe a bit of health, but stim being used by Scott's Marines, who don't exactly have a plentiful number of Medivacs to heal them up. 2 Medivacs now out, but still a very, very dire situation.
Yeah, this cloud is getting really, really disgusting here, and it looks like it is going to be pushing in once again. There's a lot of Marines here, so you don't want to fly over that. That's one way this could go south very quickly for University of Washington, but as long as they're taking smart engagements, bouncing back and forth, they're just going to have utter map control right now.
Yeah, I'm really wondering if Scott would maybe find a little bit of helpfulness in getting some Widow Mines added into the mix to help deal with these Phoenix, at least push them back and make them a little bit more wary about doing moves like this, where they move in, picking up all of the Siege Shanks. In the meanwhile, Garage Door tries to move in, but oh man, these Siege Shanks are a little bit undefended. The Phoenixes are just going to have to lift up all these remaining Marines, but there's high enough numbers. Is this worth it?
Actually, this kind of feels like a hard army reset, and that went about as well as University of Chicago could reasonably hope to ask. And I would say now they get an opportunity to kind of hit the reset button, set the pace, and wow,
a ton of those Phoenixes ended up falling. I think more than really needed to, but yeah, I feel as though Garage Door and Lamb Sauce really feeling extra confident about just how many Phoenix there were and lifting up those tanks, but at the end of the day, there just weren't enough Marines from Garage Door to really back that up, and they kind of get stomped on over there. Adepts also inside the natural expansion of Lamb Sauce, able to get a little bit of damage done. Really, really nice play for Scott and Pancakes to pull themselves back in.
Yeah, Scott, while all this was going on, has secured his 3rd successfully. Pancakes still stuck on 2. but things are starting to look up for University of Chicago. They were on the ropes, and suddenly their supply is exploding. They're catching up with their opponent, and they just need to be careful not to have any medevacs get caught out or anything crazy like that.
Oh man, but now the Phoenix come in with the double medevac drop, and guess who's going to be out of position right now? There's even a couple of SCVs for Scott being pulled into the middle of the map, and some mules. This has got to be some form of mistake with the mules being pulled out over there. At the same time, we end up seeing this double drop getting a good amount of damage done.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Scott is doing, but he is out on the map with his teammate Pancakes. And I think at this point, even if it started out as a bit of a mistake, you just go all in. You know that you're going to be losing absolutely everything at home thanks to this drop. Your army's already across the map. Try to make it happen, and it's going to be on University of Washington to try to hold.
Oh man, a big blink forward into the stim bio, and the siege tanks say, hell no, that's not going to be happening anytime soon. As they take out a ton of the stalkers, the Phoenix is now coming on in. Got to be able to lift up the Marines. Got to be a little bit careful not to lose the Phoenix, but it's not going to be a repeat of the last time. These Phoenix are in large enough numbers that they're able to clean house and shut down that push.
Yeah, while all this is happening, Pancakes is effectively eliminated from the game. A bit of cute Blink Micro coming out here. He is going to be able to get those remaining stalkers back to his ally, rather. And there's still 24 probes on this Nat base, but Pancakes just in a really rough position to do, well, anything at this point.
Pancakes is slowly but surely getting soggier and soggier as his impact in this game is not looking too good anymore. He's really going to be relying on Scott to make something happen, but this is when Lamb Sauce says, well, hey, you know that Terran player that's kind of helping to carry the team right now in these engagements just because he's been messed with less? Well, let me just go ahead and send my Phoenix over to that side of the map and start picking out some of those SCVs and already bringing his opponent down just to 54, which is still a decently healthy number, but oh man, every single one of these losses really starts to add up when it feels like it's almost a 2v1 at this point.
Yeah, and I really love that Garage Door is not making the mistake of just saying, oh, we killed Pancakes, he's dead. Every time that Scott leaves the base, Scott isn't defending anymore. He just sends one little drop back in because he knows that Pancakes can't deal with it on his own. He's just keeping him dead.
All of the medevacs over here are going to end up falling. The last medevac somehow manages to escape by hiding in plain sight, but the Phoenixes are getting stimmed on. A handful of them would go down. I'm not sure if it was enough to really impact things heavily, but the double drop inside of the Scott's main base is also going to be causing additional problems as he loses more and more of his production, having a hard time actually reinforcing and defending both his ally as well as himself.
Yeah, and now here comes a huge swoop in with the Phoenixes. They're going to pick up all of these tanks. That's going to lower the fortification level of this area, but trading out a few Phoenixes, I feel like Lamb Sauce is maybe being a bit sloppy with his air control.
Yeah, it may be a bit of that feeling where you say, well, my opponent is on barely any bases compared to our economy, so I can trade out units inefficiently and it'll still be okay, which is maybe true, but you notice inside of his in-base natural, after all the depth harassment and everything, he doesn't actually have probes mining gas right now, which is going to cause a lot of problems and kind of hinder his economy. The drops and repeated drop attempts over here from Garage Door are doing a great job keeping Scott on the defensive, but it looks like this is going to be the final push in over here. There's just a little bit too much raw power, raw economy storming on in, and we may just be seeing 3-0 over here, Joe.
Yeah, Scott, or Lamb Sauce and Garage Door, they're powering into probably the most important base of Scott. They're going to be shutting absolutely everything down. Very little defense coming in. Pancakes is bringing his final few units down. Scott's supply for the first time in quite some time has dipped well below 100, and I think this is going to be it. A clean 3-0 as we see the first GG's called. Congratulations to University of Washington for taking out their opposing team pretty cleanly.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of very, very close moments in all of those games. I actually think that any one of those games very well could have gone the other way, but by being able to edge out each one of those individual little victories, I think that it was just a really, really solid game plan. I feel like a lot of it, again, is all thanks to that very first match with Lamb Sauce, which you could even say, like, Lamb Sauce kind of the MVP right now for, I guess, this particular series of University of Washington. Being able to take the first series, doing that upset versus their opponent's GM player, and then Zeal, of course, coming in with just the same level of expectation where he's going to be the favorite player and he takes it. And then Lamb Sauce coming back in with his teammate Garage Door in the third game in the 2v2 and being able to pull that out. A really, really solid job by both teams, but I really got to hand it to Lamsauce. He's impressed me today.
Yeah, so congrats to them once again. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you Twitch for helping to make the CS Star League possible. Guys, we always remind you, if you're just lurking here, make a Twitch account. Tell them it's because they helped sponsor the CS Star League. It makes them feel good, and it helps them to keep able to supporting this. So thank you everyone. Thanks Fear Dragon for casting with me, and we'll see you guys Thursday for some StarCraft Remastered.
Sweet.
Out of time, the final call is calling, and the light falls lightly between us. Before tomorrow comes, and it all gets lost again, the ashes burn down brightest when we've everything to lose. So scribble me out, mistakes erased, forgotten. Life goes on without